The views expressed are solely those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Paltalk.com, AVM software, or its advertisers.
News Talk is online. News Talk Online is a production of Paltalk.com, the largest multimedia interactive program on the internet with more than 4 million unique users on demand on iTunes and on YouTube. And thanks to our good friends at CRN Digital Talk Radio, we are distributed to cable systems serving an additional 12 million households. I'm your host, Gary Baumgarten. Well, the weather outside is frightful. We keep seeing these big changes in the weather from one extreme to the other. And some people say that this is just a natural progression. And climate and weather are two distinctly different things. But there are others who believe that global warming is to blame for the 2005 rash of hurricanes, and that we're going to have more and more and more years with super hurricanes hitting land across around the world, not just here in the United States. And so I wanted to bring on a very special guest today. His name is Joseph Romm. He is Executive Director and founder of the Center for Energy and Climate Solutions, and he is a Senior Fellow at the Center for American Progress. During the Clinton administration, Romm was the Assistant Secretary at the Department of Energy, where he headed the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. He holds a PhD in physics from MIT, which means, Boaz, he's smarter than you and me put together. And he lives in Washington, D.C., which maybe takes away from his takes away from his intellect just a little bit. Just kidding. Joseph Romm, welcome to News Talk Online on Paltalk.com.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you here. So your book, Hell and High Water, The Global Warming Solution, does not merely talk about your argument, scientifically put in the book, that global warming is a reality and, in fact, it is being accelerated by humankind. But more importantly, and this is why of all the people who are advocates on either side of this issue, I wanted you here on the program. Most importantly is you actually offer solutions that you believe, if we act quickly enough, can actually save the planet.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I would not have written a book just saying how, that global warming was a problem if there weren't a solution. That wouldn't be a productive activity from my perspective.
But you express a degree of frustration, and we'll get into some of the specifics of why you believe this is not just a natural cycle, that humans are causing this to progress at a much more rapid rate. And I also obviously want to get into some of your suggested solutions to this problem.
Sure.
So let's start with this. Let's start with the argument that global warming is being accelerated by humans. Please convince those of us who are dubious to this claim.
Well, let me start by saying that I think there is a pretty broad agreement that the planet has been warming up in the past century or so, about 1.5 degrees Fahrenheit, and that things like the melting of the polar ice caps are evidence of that warming, as is the greater number of heat waves and extreme weather events that we've been seeing. The issue, I guess, that has become the bigger question, at least politically, is, are humans to blame? Now, 20 years ago, because of the complicated nature of the issue, we did ask the world scientific community to report every 5 years on the state of the science. Some 2,000 scientists in the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and they have been steadily issuing their reports, which have been getting progressively more alarming, and the reports that they issued in 2007 said that there was a better than 90% chance that humans were the primary cause of global warming. So, I think if one is inclined to believe scientists, then these are what the top people have said. I don't think there's any. I don't think it's that difficult to believe. We have been putting like 25 to 30 billion tons of heat-trapping gases into the atmosphere each year, and those gases, like carbon dioxide and methane, act as an insulating blanket, which would tend to warm the planet up, and this has been pretty well measured, and we have a very good understanding of how much warming those gases would cause, and we have seen pretty much the warming that has been projected. And I think that scientists have been warning for about 25 years that we would see more droughts and more stronger storms and more intense rain events and heat waves, and of course melting ice caps and ice sheets. And we're seeing all those things. So, I just think that at some point, if scientists get together and they review the science and they make predictions, and those predictions start to come true, that we should, in fact, listen to them carefully. I interviewed about 100 scientists for my book, so I've talked to many of the top climate scientists, and to a person, they are very alarmed at what is happening, and that people haven't taken their advice yet.
Well, if they are right, obviously, and we drag our feet, unfortunately, it could mean a very inhospitable planet. But here's the problem, as I see it, with convincing the public. Joseph Romm, author of Hell and High Water. I think we suffer here in the United States and around the world with the Chicken Little syndrome. We keep getting hit over the head over what the next great calamity is going to be. I mean, I remember when it was the West Nile virus. More people were dying in the area that people were afflicted with West Nile virus from the common flu by far than West Nile virus. And yet those deaths didn't get reported by the media. But if one person was battling a case of West Nile virus on Long Island, New York, well, it became front page news in New York City because, oh my God, this could be a pandemic heading our way. You yourself compare the concerns about global warming in your book to the bird flu, which I covered while at CNN, a symposium that was hosted by the United Nations and Time magazine, where the then Secretary General of the United Nations suggested to all gathered that it was not a question of if, but when this pandemic would occur. There has been no migration of the bird flu virus from one species to another. Yes, people who have been in close contact with contaminated birds have become sick, but there's been no mutation where there's human-to-human transmission of which would be required to cause a pandemic. So I think it's like Chicken Little. Even when he's right, nobody believes him because we're scared of everything that they're throwing at us, and we're just weary of it all. Whether it's terrorism or global warming, we've had enough.
Well, I'd like to distinguish two things there. I'd like to distinguish what the scientific community believes from what the media reports. I